Hello and welcome. A Kashmiri army officer has been shot dead in Shopian. Lieutenant Umair Fayaz was not on duty. He was at his home in Kashmir attending a cousin's wedding. He was shot and shot dead by the militants. Worse still, stone pelters targeted funeral procession of the army officer. The tragedy in Jammu and Kashmir is our top focus on news tonight. Let us take a look at the other big stories in the headlines. Terrorists abduct and kill army officer in Shopian district of Jammu and Kashmir. Lieutenant Umair Fayaz was found with multiple bullet injuries. Kulbhushan Jadhav's death sentence is stayed by the International Court of Justice. India accuses Pakistan of violations of the Vienna Conventions in its complaint to the ICJ. Supreme Court takes its first step towards going paperless with the Prime Minister launching the Integrated Case Management System. System expected to help litigants access data online easily. Markets hit their all-time highs on predictions of 100% monsoon by IMD. Nifty crosses 9,400 for the first time, even as the BSE Sensex closes above 30,000 points. And over a decade of conservative rule ends in South Korea as the liberal Moon Jae-in is sworn in as the president. Moon expected to improve ties with North Korea. In a shocking incident, the body of an army lieutenant was found with multiple bullet injuries in Shopian district of Kashmir on Wednesday. The army officer, identified as Lieutenant Umair Fayaz, was abducted and killed by terrorists in Shopian, where he had gone to attend a family wedding. Now, Defence Minister Arun Jaitley and Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Mehbooba Mufti strongly condemned the killing.
An army officer from Kashmir was abducted and shot dead by terrorists in Shopian district on Tuesday night. 22-year-old Lieutenant Umair Fayaz was on leave to attend his cousin's wedding in Batapura when he was kidnapped and killed. His bullet-riddled body was found in Harmain area of Shopian this morning.
This was a very dastardly act of cowardice, जिसमें कुछ unknown terrorists ने जो इस इलाके में रहते हैं, इन्होंने कल रात को लेफ्टिनेंट उमर फयाज को किडनैप किया है और बाद में उनको मार दिया गया है। इंडियन आर्मी इस दुख की घड़ी में इस फैमिली के साथ खड़ी है।
Lieutenant Fayaz was posted with 2 Rajputana rifles in Akhnur sector in Jammu. He was commissioned in the army in December last year. He was also an exceptional sportsman and was tipped to pursue the young officers' course in September. The officer was laid to rest with full military honours in his native village in Kulgam on Wednesday. Defence Minister Arun Jaitley strongly condemned the killing, calling it a dastardly act of cowardice. He also said that the young officer was a role model and that his sacrifice reiterated the nation's commitment to eliminate terrorism from the valley. The gruesome killing was also condemned by Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Mehbooba Mufti as well as members of other political parties. The opposition parties, however, insisted that a political solution was required to solve the issue.
बहुत ही सोचने का लम्हा है हमारे लोगों के लिए, जम्मू कश्मीर के लोगों के लिए, बिलखुसूस वादी के लोगों के लिए कि जो मसले कश्मीर की दुहाई दे रहे हैं, तो क्या उस मसले का हल इसी तरह बैंक लूटना है, हथियार लूटना है और हमारे जवान बच्चे जो पढ़ लिख के कुछ बनना चाहते हैं या बनते हैं, तो इस तरह से बेदर्दी से कत्ल करना, क्या इस मसले का हल यही है?
एक बहुत ही बारबैरिक, बहुत ही कावर्डली एक्ट है और इसमें स्टेट गवर्नमेंट और सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट की वजह से जो पॉलिटिकल वैक्यूम, जो एक एटमॉस्फेयर ऑफ री इमर्जेंस ऑफ मिलिटेंसी बना है, पॉलिटिकल किलिंग्स फिर से शुरू हुई हैं, इलेक्शंस कैंसिल होने लगे हैं, उससे वो वायलेंट कंस्टिट्यूएंसी जो एम्बोल्डन हो गई है।
पूरी पार्टियां, पूरा देश सरकार के साथ खड़ा है। अगर वो पाकिस्तान को मुंह तोड़ जवाब देने की इच्छा रखते हैं तो उनको काम करना चाहिए। और आज भी जो खबर आज मिली है, बड़ा दुख हम लोगों को है कि इस प्रकार से किडनैप करके हमारे अफसरों को मारा जा रहा है, तो इससे लोगों का मनोबल टूटता है।
I strongly condemn this killing and violence is not the answer, and that too targeting individual officers or jawans and killing them will not take Jammu and Kashmir anywhere. And we should address the issues as political issues.
The incident comes amidst rising tensions between civilians and security forces in the valley. There has been a spike in militant activities in South Kashmir's districts of Pulwama, Shopia, Anantnag and Kulgam. Meanwhile, the army on Wednesday foiled yet another infiltration bid by militants along the line of control in Baramulla district of Kashmir. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
Situation in Jammu and Kashmir are getting bad to worse every day. Meanwhile, there is some relief for India because the International Court of Justice on Tuesday stayed the execution of Indian national Kulbhushan Jadhav, who was sentenced to death by Pakistan for alleged espionage. Now, the External Affairs Minister today said that India decided to move the International Court of Justice on the issue of a retired Indian Navy officer Jadhav, as he was in illegal detention in Pakistan and his life was under threat. The Pakistan Army has said that it will respond at an appropriate level to any query by the International Court of Justice. Meanwhile, Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif met Army Chief Qamar Bajwa to discuss the issue.
In what comes as a huge relief, the International Court of Justice has stayed the execution of Indian national Kulbhushan Jadhav, who has been sentenced to death by a Pakistani military court on charges of spying. The order by the Hague-based court came a day after India approached it against the death sentence.
I have mentioned to you very clearly that the circumstances that existed, the life of an Indian citizen is a threat. We have been denied consular access, which is in contravention to the international law, and therefore we have sought this course of action.
In its appeal to the ICJ, India accused Pakistan of egregious violations of the Vienna Convention on Consular Relations and asserted that Jadhav was kidnapped from Iran, where he was involved in business activities after retiring from the Indian Navy. India said it made 16 requests for consular access to Jadhav, but there was no response from Pakistan. Islamabad also did not respond to India's request for papers relating to Jadhav's case.
The press release of the International Court of Justice is extremely clear and very lucid, very precise on what our pleas are, what are the grounds, what are the violations of international convention that the government has mentioned in its petition.
India also contended that it was not informed of Jadhav's detention until long after his arrest and that Pakistan failed to inform the accused of his rights. External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj had written to Pakistan Foreign Affairs Advisor Sartaj Aziz on April 27th requesting visa for Jadhav's family.
देश के लिए एक प्रसन्नता की, एक गर्व की बात है कि जो हमारा स्टैंड था, जो हमारा दावा था कि ये सब पाकिस्तान की कोशिश है देश को बदनाम करने की, उसके ऊपर रोक लगी है और एक ऐसे व्यक्ति को जिसको उन्होंने अगवा किया, उसके बाद मिलिट्री कोर्ट के अंदर उसके ऊपर केस चलाया, उसको सजा सुनाई, उसके ऊपर रोक लगी है, बहुत अच्छी बात है।
जिस प्रकार से पाकिस्तान बिना किसी न्यायिक जांच के और एक प्रकार से उनको फांसी देने का विचार कर रही थी, प्रयास कर रही थी, स्केपगोट बना रही थी, उसके ऊपर एक बहुत बड़ा झटका इसके कारण लगा है और मैं मानता हूं कि भारत सरकार की ये और भारत देश की ये बहुत बड़ी विजय है।
The fact that the Indian ministry for the first time went after almost 45 years to seek such a stay of execution, and the fact that the International Court of Justice has deemed it fit to grant stay, obviously finding a prima facie case in favor of India, and India's argument that all these execution orders have not met the consular requirements. So I think we are very hopeful of future course of action.
Meanwhile, Pakistan has said that India is using Jadhav's conviction as a tactic to divert attention from what it calls India's state-sponsored terrorism in Pakistan. 46-year-old Jadhav was sentenced to death last month by a military court in Pakistan for alleged espionage. Senior advocate Harish Salve will argue Jadhav's case in the International Court of Justice when it opens on May 15th. With inputs from Akhilesh Suman, Bureau Report for Rajya Sabha TV.
On to some other news now. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Wednesday launched the integrated case management system of the Supreme Court in the presence of Chief Justice of India, Jagdish Singh Kehar. Now, the system will help litigants access data and retrieve information online. The new system will be a step towards making the proceedings of the Supreme Court paperless. Now, speaking on the occasion, Kehar said that he proposes to integrate the system with all the 24 high courts and subordinate courts across the country. He further added that it will help usher transparency, reduce manipulation and help the litigants know about the progress of the cases on a real-time basis. Every central and state government department will know if they have been made a party to the case, and it will help them prepare accordingly. The Prime Minister used the tagline, "Nation is changing," to the point of changing mindsets with regard to work culture in the country.
मुझे कई जगह से खबरें आ रही हैं कि बहुत बड़ी मात्रा में हाई कोर्ट में, सुप्रीम कोर्ट में जजेस अपने वैकेशन को कम करके इस देश के गरीबों के लिए अपना समय देने वाले हैं। मैं इसके लिए आपका बहुत आभारी हूँ। क्वांटम के रूप में इसका परिणाम क्या आता है वो अलग बात है, लेकिन इस प्रकार का भाव पूरे वातावरण को बदल देता है। एक सेंस ऑफ रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी को बल देता है।
Let's move on in the bulletin. A Nifty crossed the 9,400 level for the first time on Wednesday, while the Sensex surged to its lifetime high of 30,246.28 in the late afternoon trade. Now, this rise came on widespread buying, spurred by forecast of a normal monsoon this year. Now, BSE Sensex gained 1.05% or 314.92 points to close at 30,248.17, while the NSE Nifty gained 0.97% to close at 9,407.30. Now, brokers said that the sentiment was upbeat after the Met Department said that monsoon could be normal this year and bring 100% rainfall instead of 96% as predicted earlier, which is expected to give a booster dose to the rural economy of the country. Russian Deputy Prime Minister Dmitry Rogozin arrived in the national capital on Wednesday for a one-day visit. Now, he met External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj, with the both sides reviewing their bilateral cooperation in the range of sectors, including the civil, nuclear, trade and investments. Now, this meeting comes ahead of the annual summit-level meeting between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Russian President Vladimir Putin on 1st of June. Now, during the meeting of India-Russia Intergovernmental Commission on Trade, Economic and Cultural Cooperation, both sides also took stock of the implementation of various key bilateral initiatives. Russian Deputy Prime Minister later met Prime Minister Narendra Modi as well and discussed issues of bilateral interest. Prime Minister Modi noted the positive all-round progress in bilateral cooperation between India and Russia. He also appreciated the high-level exchanges between the two sides as both the nations celebrate the 70th anniversary of establishment of diplomatic relations this year.
Сегодняшняя наша встреча в основном была посвящена обсуждению вопросов торгово-экономического сотрудничества, а также подготовке к саммиту, который состоится вот уже совсем скоро, в самом начале июня этого года в Санкт-Петербурге состоится встреча наших лидеров, премьер-министра господина Моди и президента Путина.
We agreed to work closely in the months ahead to take forward many of the collaborative ideas that emerged in diverse fields, including security, nuclear, space, disaster management, trade and economy, science and technology, and people-to-people linkages.
Let's get to you some more news from across the nation in Nationwide. The BSP has expelled its legislator Naseemuddin Siddiqui and his son from the party for carrying out anti-party activities. The party has accused Naseemuddin of accepting money from people in return for work. The party further added that it will not tolerate such indiscipline. Suspended AAP MLA Kapil Mishra began his hunger strike over the party's not disclosing the details of funding for foreign tours of its leaders. Mishra on Tuesday lodged 3 FIRs against Arvind Kejriwal and other party leaders with the CBI in connection with various corruption charges against them. Delhi Metro authorities have announced a two-phase hike in passenger fares starting Wednesday. A metro ride in Delhi will cost nearly double now. The new minimum fare will be 10 rupees while the maximum would be 50 rupees. Tariff would rise further from 1st of October when the maximum would go up to 60 rupees. Heatwave conditions continue to prevail across several states in the country. Sweltering weather conditions continue to affect normal life in Delhi, Madhya Pradesh, Jharkhand, Odisha, Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan, Punjab and Haryana. In the national capital, the mercury touched 44 degrees Celsius in some parts of the city. And news tonight, we'll take a very short break. Up next, we have all the international news as well as sports news. Stay with us.
Renowned economist Amartya Sen needs no introduction. Recipient of the Nobel Prize for Economics in 1998, Sen has always shown a keen interest in the problems of the underprivileged. He has made immense contributions to the discipline of welfare economics and social choice theory, and his books have been translated into more than 30 languages. In 2010, Amartya Sen was listed among the world's 50 most influential people who matter.
Welcome back. After the break, news from the Korean Peninsula. And South Korea's new president, Moon Jae-in, has advocated closer ties with neighboring North Korea. In a sign of a break with a hardline approach of his predecessors, Moon expressed his willingness to even go to North Korea to meet Kim Jong-un if it meant bringing lasting peace to the peninsula. Moon also vowed to improve his country's ties with longtime ally the United States. But his adverse views on the deployment of the THAAD anti-missile system has put a question mark over South Korea-United States ties.
Seoul's policy on North Korea is about to get a major overhaul. In his first speech after being sworn in, South Korea's new president Moon Jae-in vowed to improve relations with the North, saying he would be willing to visit Pyongyang under the right circumstances.
서둘러 해결하겠습니다. 한반도의 평화를 위해 동분서주하겠습니다. 필요하면 곧바로 워싱턴으로 날아가겠습니다.
Moon took oath of office in Seoul's National Assembly a day after his decisive win in the election that was called to replace impeached President Park Geun-hye. The election took place in the backdrop of rising tensions in the Korean Peninsula over North Korea's missile and nuclear program and the subsequent South Korea-US military drills and the deployment of controversial US anti-missile system THAAD. While Moon has been vocal about his criticism of THAAD, he also talked about further strengthening the alliance with the United States.
한미 동맹은 더욱 강화하겠습니다. 한편으로 사드 문제 해결을 위해 미국 및 중국과 진지하게 협상하겠습니다.
However, Moon is unlikely to get a long honeymoon when it comes to North Korea. Experts have been predicting an imminent nuclear test, North Korea's sixth, for weeks now. Under these circumstances, a keen eye would be on how Moon applies the sunshine policy of the liberal governments of 1998 to 2008 that advocated closer ties between the two Koreas. A key challenge for Moon would also be his handling of ties with China, which retaliated economically over the deployment of THAAD.
中方在萨德问题上的立场是一贯的、明确的。我们希望韩方高度重视中方的关切。
Apart from handling ties with North Korea, the 64-year-old Democratic Party candidate has also promised to tackle corruption, bolster the economy and address youth unemployment, some of the key concerns for voters. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Big story from the United States. In an unpredictable move, President Donald Trump has fired the director of the FBI, James Comey, saying that he was unable to effectively the bureau. But Democrats say that he was fired because the FBI was investigating alleged links between the Trump campaign and Russia. Now, experts say that Comey tried to strike a balance in a sharply divided political environment and ended up alienating both the sides. It has been termed as US President Donald Trump's most unpredictable move, firing FBI Director James Comey over his handling of the inquiry into Hillary Clinton's emails. Interestingly, Comey got to know about his termination watching the news on television. White House says Trump's decision came after Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein assessed the situation at the FBI and concluded that Comey had lost his confidence. The termination caps a difficult year for Comey, whose handling of the Hillary Clinton email investigation drew scrutiny from both sides of the aisle.
You have a system that's working. You have a career prosecutor that lost confidence in the FBI director's ability to carry out his responsibilities. An FBI director who is equally questioned by numerous folks on the left who all said that they had a problem.
The sudden termination has perplexed not just Comey but everyone else too. It is noteworthy that last year in July, Comey had declared that investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails should be closed. But just 11 days before the presidential election, the investigation had been reopened. It was a decision Democrats believe cost Clinton victory. Democrats are now suggesting that fiery Comey is a sinister design by Trump to influence inquiry into whether members of the Trump election campaign colluded with Russia.
We know the House is investigating Russian interference in our elections that benefited the Trump campaign. We know the Senate is investigating. We know the FBI has been looking into whether the Trump campaign colluded with the Russians, a very serious offense. Were these investigations getting too close to home for the president?
Democrats are also calling the move Nixonian, comparing it to President Nixon's infamous decision to purge the Justice Department during the Watergate investigation. The White House said the search for a successor would begin immediately. It is only the second time the head of the FBI has been fired. The last U.S. president to fire an FBI director was Bill Clinton, who dismissed William Sessions in 1993 over financial irregularities. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV. Let's get you some more international news. Here is the global buzz. Hundreds of supporters of Jakarta's Governor Basuki Purnama gathered around the city hall, singing the national anthem and calling for him to be freed after a court sentenced him to 2 years in jail for blasphemy. President Joko Widodo was an ally of Purnama, and the verdict will be a setback for a government that has sought to quell radical groups and soothe investors' concern that the country's secular values were at risk. Despite fierce opposition from NATO ally Turkey, US President Donald Trump has approved the supplying arms to Kurdish YPG fighters to support an operation to retake the Syrian city of Raqqa from the Islamic State. The US has long supplied arms to the Arab components of the Syrian Democratic Forces, which include the YPG fighters. Turkey has objected to such a move, raising fears of a backlash that could prompt the Turks to curtail their cooperation with Washington in the struggle against the Islamic State. Cambodia's Premier Hun Sen has warned that he will not hesitate using military might if protests turn violent. Hun Sen is preparing for local polls in June and a 2018 national election after clamping down on opposition figures trying to break his 32-year grip on power. Reportedly, more than a dozen activists and opposition politicians have been thrown in jail since the 2013 election that challenged the ruling party's majority. China has said that the health of the Taiwanese people is not being put at risk by Taiwan's inability to attend a UN health meeting this year. This after Taiwan accused Beijing of obstructing its efforts to attend the annual meeting in Geneva. At the core of the strained ties is the One China policy that Taiwan's new leader refuses to accept. Taiwan is still sending a delegation to the meeting, even though it does not have an invitation, warning China that attempts to exclude it could irreversibly damage ties. Security forces clashed with opposition protesters in the western Venezuelan state of Táchira as a wave of protests against the government of President Maduro entered its 6th week. The opposition protesters are demanding that political prisoners be released, a humanitarian channel be opened for food as well as medicine. Instead, Maduro has called a constituent assembly to rewrite the constitution. Time now for all the sporting action. Here is the sports beat. Indian fast bowler Jhulan Goswami has become the highest female wicket taker in the history of ODIs. She broke the decade-long record held by Australian Catherine Fitzpatrick. Jhulan Goswami dismissed South Africa's Raisibe Nutsozake in an ODI to claim her 181st victim in the 50-over format. Jhulan achieved her feat in her 153rd match. She also has 40 wickets in 10 tests as well as 50 wickets in 60 T20 internationals. Gurpreet Singh and Harpreet Singh entered the bronze medal playoff round in the Greco-Roman weight divisions at the Asian Wrestling Championship. Gurpreet beat Burgo Besihalev of Kyrgyzstan, whereas Harpreet reached the bronze medal round after his Korean opponent entered the gold medal round. Juventus beat Monaco 2-1 as defender Dani Alves scored a stunning volleyed goal that took the Italians into their second Champions League final in 3 years. Juventus, who won the first leg 2-0, were coasting until Kylian Mbappe pulled one back in the 69th minute. Juventus will now face either Real Madrid or Atletico Madrid in the other semi-final on Wednesday. And Annie Murray and Dominic Thiem progressed to the Madrid Open third round after comfortable wins over unseeded opponents. Murray beat Romanian Marius Copil 6-4, 6-3, who just moved into the top 10 in the top 100 in the world rankings for the first time in his career. Austrian Thiem beat American Judd Donaldson 6-3, 6-4. Now Murray will face Croatian Borna Koric or Frenchman Pierre-Hugues Herbert in the last 16. Well, that's all in this edition of News Tonight. Thanks for watching. Good night.